Welcome back to another episode of the Motivating Force podcast. Now, first off, remember, like, subscribe, and share these videos with all your friends and family. Really show that love. It really means a lot to us. And now, without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, so the other day, right, I was listening to a podcast, and forgive me for not remembering the guy's name that said this, but the whole point of that episode, they were talking about how, like, the negative effects of social media that has on people and, you know, the addicts. Let's be real here, the people that are constantly using social media. And what it narrows down to, he talks about how it's like it has like a direct correlation to processed food, because, quote, he's calling it processed information, all sorts of social media, because it's not a proper way to communicate. The way that Twitter works, the way that Instagram posts and Facebook posts, all that work, you kind of have like a 500-ish character post that you can tag along with the picture, the video, whatever it is that you're throwing up on there. And that's not a really great way of communicating information for other people to take in that's going to better their life, right? Like, you have to revise it 20 times before you are able to fit whatever it is you're trying to say into 500 characters.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of the smaller details that can be left out, especially on Twitter, smallest posting window possible.
Yeah, and like I said, when you're trying to get information into your brain, you're trying to learn something, you're trying to get something to better your life, it's not a really great way to get context out of a post, right? Because we can have 3 different people that are going through a whole bunch of different life experiences, different emotions at the time of reading, and they're all going to take the context in different forms. So that's why you hear a lot of people saying how, oh, it was out of context. Well, then there wasn't need to post it, right? Unless you're able to communicate that a little bit better, then you're not going to do any justice to yourself. And then he related it to processed food, that processed information, the same way that the processed food, McDonald's, fast food, whatever it is bad for you when you consume it all the time, that the processed information is going to work the same way. You're not going to do yourself any justice or heal your mental health if you're constantly on these social medias and taking in that terrible form of communication, because it's just no way to communicate. That's why you have people like the internet trolls, the people that are always showing like the hateful messages and the comments. And then you also have on the other spectrum the people that are always constantly posting the fake version of living their quote unquote best lives.
Yeah, it's great, man. It makes me think of the like with what Facebook's doing with their whole policing regimen. And it's like this post is partly false. Yeah. This post is partly true. Yeah, I wonder why. There's only so much information you can fit in there in one go about. And it's like, you know, they're not able to get the full context in there, you know, get the full story out. It's like, okay, well, here's the key points. Here's all this, boom, boom, boom. And they're like, well, we kind of disagree with that. So this is partly false. And it's like, well, which part, you know? And like you're saying, it's great to relate it to, you know, eating McDonald's all the time or junk food or whatnot, because it's like, sure, you're still filling yourself up with calories, and sure, you're filling your mind up with information, but it's just these little bits and pieces, and you're not getting the full scope. You're not getting the full context of everything. You're not going to be making real connections with that data that's being imported into your brain.
But that's also going hand in hand with, like, how I always say how we're not adapting correctly to all the side effects that come along with the technology that we're advancing in. And with the, you know, the rise of this hate towards the news media, right? How we always feel like either news media has agendas or whatever the case may be. We start turning to social media for news. Like, if that's the broadcaster for all things true, so then I guess let's just use Facebook, for example. They're taking it in as a responsibility to try to make every post factual. Even if it's like a joke, they're going to try to ban it, shadow ban it, or take it off completely because somebody was trying to make a joke, came across to somebody else that it was supposed to be a true statement, got flagged, and then now they can't even make, you know, little comments on the site anymore. And, you know, it's all because we're not adapting correctly to context. We're lacking context when it comes to social media communication. Now, is that a problem that should fall on the shoulders of the news media outlets? No. But it's like we're not comprehending the measures we need to take when it comes to social media, and that can just snowball into something bigger. Then next thing you know, you're sitting in an avalanche of this processed information.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, right? Because everybody's trying to find out who's responsible for that, who's in charge of that. And it's like, hey, the answer is real easy. Every single individual is responsible for that. Because if you're going to read something and it's going to spark your interest or it's going to excite you one way or another, good or bad, it's like you're really going to take like these activist style steps and approaches towards a paragraph you read from some who knows on the internet. Or how about, oh wow, okay, so global warming is doing this and that to the environment. Oh, well, that's interesting, let me look into that and see what that's about, because I want to know more, instead of, oh well, that's bad for the environment, and then you go and make your signs and stuff, and it's like, why don't you go get educated in it? It's the responsible individual,
it's the individual's
responsibility to get that, to get their ducks in a row.
Yeah, you see the one like meme about like some iceberg melting or something, and then you think that's all the truth, and then you start looking through Facebook for more information on that, and all you're going to get is troll pages. But that's why, like you said, it's on the individual to do correct research and scientific journals and all that stuff that we've talked about before. But, going back to the social media here, I'm kind of going to speak for both of us here, and how on our personal social medias, we both have it. Everybody has social media now. It's normal, but it's the way you control yourself on it. We haven't really posted anything on our own behalf, right? We haven't just gone out and made a normal post if it has anything other to do than with the podcast, right? But I feel like it's because we don't really have much to say to put out there that's going to fit in perfect context in 500-ish characters. Like we'll go out and on our personal social media, we'll repost the episode clips from our podcast, or the entire episode when it gets released. Maybe a meme or two here and there, but we're not going to go out of our way to be like, oh, living our best life and doing all this on a, like, the one that's going to stay there forever, like an actual post.
Yeah.
Stories are a little bit different because those go away in a day.
Yeah.
But it's like we don't have anything that's going to be set in stone, full of context in 500 characters. And like I said, I'm kind of speaking out for you on this behalf because that's how I feel.
No, I agree 100%. That's exactly the same reason why. I think the last real post I made on my personal page was back when we had the terrible shooting at Pulse nightclub out here in Orlando. And I think that's the last time I actually made a real post, because I was able to put something nice, sweet, compact, and it was filled with message me for more information on this, message me if you need help with this, message me for this. And it was always like that extra window to opportunity, instead of just like, oh, well, here's my post about it, here's my thoughts, here's what I think.
Yeah. That's the only opinion you have, and it's always set in stone right there.
Yeah, and especially something like that. I mean, you could talk about what happened in that atrocity for days, And even then, like you're saying, it was a challenge to kind of really, I spent a couple hours just being like, man, and I really felt moved to like say something. Yeah. And it was a struggle to be able to say something, because it was, how do I fit all the proper information into this post?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like when we do repost the clips, or we repost the actual episode when it comes out, it's like we'll put a little caption there to then follow up with the video. The video shows that the emotion behind what we're saying, it shows the context and the discussion we're having, or the actual video. You want more information, go click on the video. And then even if we say something controversial, just keep watching, because then we explain it. Yeah. Like we're always going to fully hit on the points that we're trying to make. And that's what I agree with the processed information kind of example, because it's exactly like if you're eating McDonald's all the time. And for those of you who, sitting there and you're all butthurt and you're thinking, social media is this godsend, is the best thing that's ever happened to humanity. And let's be realistic. You're the people here who have been eating junk food, McDonald's, fast food all the time. You're not cooking for yourself, and you're thinking that you're living this healthy life, but you honestly just haven't seen your waistband in years because that's all you've been eating, and you're just convincing yourself that this is all good for you. You're going to sit there and go, well, I only eat one Big Mac every time I go. That's still junk food, my guy.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody once told me that the Big Mac was healthier than the salad.
Excuse me?
Yeah. All because the calorie count difference.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you should definitely just eat Big Macs all the time.
Yeah.
Never mind, scratch what I said.
Yeah.
But, with that context, like I'm saying, you get used to eating that. You start convincing yourself. You get used to being on social media all the time, and then you start convincing yourself that it's fine. It's the normal thing. Everybody's going to do it. It's whatever. It's not harming you in any shape or form.
It's like, this is the most efficient way to get information.
Yeah.
Because it's just the small chunks. It's just exactly what I need. And it's like, no, it's not. The same way, like, sure, McDonald's is efficient. You get a full meal in less than 3 minutes, really.
Yeah, and you're not hungry anymore. Cool.
Right.
You solved the problem.
Yeah, it's like, but no, you didn't. Yeah. You solved the problem, but at the end of the day, you're going to lose the war.
Yeah.
So,
but the same way, like fast food, junk food, whatever it is, it's meant to be eaten occasionally. McDonald's and places like that, I keep name dropping it, but it's obviously the most famous worldwide. And people, their goal is to get you to eat there as much as possible. But they don't go, hey, eat here every day. Because even they know it's not that good for you.
Yeah.
You should still cook for yourself. You should probably go to a restaurant that has healthier foods, if you're not going to want to cook or if you don't know how to cook, unfortunately. But there's other steps that you can take when it comes to the social media side of it. Like for me, example, I have my social media all in one folder. Apple has, you can put things in different folders and then you can title them. I have mine in a folder titled Addict. I don't want to categorize myself as one, but obviously nobody does. But it's having to have the extra click to then open up the folder and then clicking on the icon for Instagram, for iFunny, for whatever the app is, because everybody's so used to just wasting the time because they don't have anything else to do, or they're bored, or they're just trying to pass some time, so they whip out the phone. It's right there on the homepage. They just click the app and they spend hours just so
yeah,
it's there's different things that you guys can do. You can either put it, like, make it just a little bit more difficult for you to access it so quick, because there's been times that I've even been in public and, I'm standing next to somebody in an elevator, or I'm waiting in line somewhere and I'm by myself, so I don't know who to talk to. So I just pull out my phone. I'm just wasting time. But then if you have that extra click, like, I felt guilty. I open it up, get my homepage. I see the folder. I click the folder. It says Addict. And I'm like, let me second guess myself.
So you're right, though. You're right,
yeah,
though.
let me not just stand here like an idiot with like a line of drool going down my face. Let me ask the guy in front of me a question. Let me talk to somebody next to me. Make meaningful conversations, even if it's about your day. Make small talk. You can get perspective on other people's lives around you, because you're not the only one living your life. You're the only one living your life. You're not the only one in this world, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
There's other people going through different life experiences. For example, I went to New York one time for a birthday a couple of years ago, and then I'm traveling by myself, so I go sit at a bar, grab a drink, just watching TV. I'm not a sports fan. Who am I kidding? Why am I going to stare at sports that I know nothing about? And then, the guy sitting next to me asked me a question. I'm like, okay. And then I make conversation with the guy. Next thing I know, an hour passed, my flight's about to come out. So then, I had a great time talking to somebody, getting their experiences, what they do for a living, getting different, inside information in different, not businesses, but different career paths. I could get more of like a better perspective all around on just other people's day to day. I'm sitting here thinking, this guy's probably doing the same job I have. Why does he want to talk to me? I'm probably not that special, but then he's interested in my conversation because I do something completely different than him. So it's a better way of communication when it's a real, when it's verbal, you know, when you're talking to somebody.
When it's real, just like real food. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I agree with the whole processed information metaphor for social media.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And, you know, I mean, I think people would really be surprised at how many people are actually willing to talk to you when you're just out and about. Because, I mean, just think about it for yourself, right? I know, like, it's, of course, up front, it's always like somebody goes to talk to you and you're like, you're not staring at your phone? What the hell are you doing? But then it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're talking now. And you start talking. And as soon as you're asking people, like, what they do for a living, I mean, you got to remember, man, people aren't changing jobs every day. It's not a superficial thing to have a job. You're going to ask somebody about what they do for work, what's going on with that. They're going to be more than happy to tell you because it's what they do. It's what they spend their time doing. It's, you know, we work jobs to benefit society and to contribute back to society. And in turn, we get paid to do that. There's something there. There's that human connection in our occupation that as soon as you start approaching people and you start talking to them, and especially about things like work, man, people will have stories for you all day long.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's another thing. You have to be open to that. Like, let's say you're the one on the receiving end of that. You're the one staring at your phone, and then, you know, this little old lady comes up to you, or this little old man comes up to you and starts asking you how your day was. Don't get bothered by it. You're not doing anything important. Who are you kidding yourself? You're watching people dancing on TikTok all day. You know, you can do that another time. You're not, you know, messaging anybody. I'm talking about strictly social media here. When you're staring at your phone, staring at Instagram, going like this mindlessly. You have that drool going down your face. You get this little old lady, all sweet, comes up to you, asks you how your day is. She's trying to make the conversation with you. Be open to that conversation, because imagine the stories she's going to have for you.
Yeah.
Imagine,
100%.
Imagine those great life experiences that she had or he had, whatever the case, that they're going to be able to, that they're willing to share with you. But you have to be open to accepting that conversation, because you're going to gain a lot more perspective from that conversation than, like I said, a 500 character post that you saw on social media.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I mean, you're gonna be sitting here going through Facebook, and it's like, you know, you're gonna be over here getting all hurt or offended or whatever, going through about all the Facebook Nazis, quote unquote, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that sweet old lady trying to talk to you, she's like, oh, I remember the Nazis, like the real Nazis.
Like
I was there,
actual ones.
Yeah, you know, and it's like,
tell me more.
Have that conversation. You know, that's the real conversation. But that's true.
On top of being meaningful, like, you're probably making her day. You know, she probably doesn't have family with her. That's why she's trying to go out and talk to people. You know, you're making her day so much better because you're able to give her that time.
Yeah.
You're able to give her some, like, peace and comfort. Maybe she's going through something and she's just, you know, trying to get some love back, trying to get some form of humanity. Because imagine somebody who's lived back then when they went through the wars and everything, they don't have this kind of like lack of communication. Everybody's talking, everybody has to communicate to each other, but not in the form of staring at their phone, you know. So now she's been living her whole life in this like hustle and bustle, like everything's moving, everybody's talking, to now the year 2021 and everybody's just quiet. And
yeah,
you know, so imagine being in her shoes and seeing that. It's like everybody's zombies now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's across the board too in the age range, because I mean, you can think of like little kids coming up to talk to you. You know, I mean, obviously you got the innocence there, but you also have true, genuine curiosity.
Yeah.
You know, and then all the way up to the elderly people that are doing that. You know, if somebody's trying to talk to you, there's a reason for it. You know, maybe nothing pressing, nothing serious, but deep down there's a reason for it. You don't just approach strangers to approach strangers, you know, and you can find some really great conversations in that. And I think that is one of the bigger issues, especially with like our generation, is we kind of grew up with the rise of this form of technology. So we understand life without it, which is why we're so much more addicted to it. So thankfully they're saying like the next generation underneath us, they're not really going to have so much of an addiction to it like we do, because they've lived with it their entire lives. So it's kind of like they don't take it for granted the way that we do. So they're able to kind of manage it and understand, like, this isn't some new great big thing.
Well, I don't think it's that they're going to be able to manage it. They're just managing the use of the social media. Like, they're adapting to it.
Yeah.
They're just not adapting to the side effects that are going to come from that. Like, if you give kids an iPad as soon as they come out of the womb, you know, they don't have outlets to get out their energy. They're just going to be stuck. They're entertained. They're not going to be tearing your house down. They're not going to be yelling and screaming because they're on the iPad. They're just staring at the TV. They're entertained for the time. But when they start getting older, they're going to have the ADHD. They're going to be, you know, that they're constantly moving their legs because they have no other source to get out their energy. So that's where I see the problem that could arise from that. It's not necessarily the technology. It's the side effects on like outlets that they're going to have.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that 100%. But just for, you know, today's conversation's sake, because the issue that comes in with that is, I was going to say, I don't think people really understand what it means to have a meaningful conversation anymore, because we're so used to that processed information that, you know, you sit there and you eat a Big Mac, or you come home and you get some fresh off the cow ground beef and make a burger. It's going to taste different, and chances are you might not even like it, because you get the flavors of reality, not the chemical mixtures mixed into all these things to kind of, you know, the flavor enhancers and whatnot,
the textures,
the 10,000
well.
grams of salt that go into all of it, you know, and it's like you're getting the real thing, and it's going to taste different to you, and you might not even like it. And that's kind of how those conversations go with that processed information. And people aren't realizing, like, hey, I actually can't really have that meaningful conversation, because it's inverted on social media to where it's just waiting for your feedback. It's waiting for you to interact with it, because that's how they can make some money. You know, it makes sense. But in the real world, if you're going out there approaching people, trying to talk to people, trying to have a conversation, you're better off being quiet. You know, if you start the conversation, you ask a question, it's time for you to shut up and listen. Whereas we're trained to not do that on social media, on the internet.
Yeah. And I have seen a lot of people that try to make those conversations, but it's always one-sided because they're not open to a rebuttal. They don't know how to take in constructive criticism or that their point is wrong. They're so used to putting out their post, and then they get a bunch of people that think similarly. They have the same opinions, all jumping in and tagging along. And, you know, they have this whole collective, this whole tribe mentality saying, yeah, you're right. Everything's good. You're the only reason for right here. There's no wrong. But then when you have an actual conversation with a human being that knows how to play devil's advocate or just has a different opinion,
different walk of life,
they don't know how to react with that. So it's immediately an argument. It's immediately escalated into something, you know, terrible. Like people can break out in fights because they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to have conversations. And then I think I mentioned this before, but there's a person that I've heard talking before about how his wife was raised, that her dad would always tell her to start the conversation with people. Not total strangers, like he's just sending her off, but like if they go to like to the store or whatever, they're in line for something, it's useless. But to start asking questions or start just talking to them, but not asking yes or no questions, because then she's going to become a great speaker because she knows how to form better conversations with people. Yeah. And that's something that we can all take into account. But then, you know, backtracking a little bit with the processed food thing, I mean, if you're eating McDonald's all the time because you really like burgers, there's a drastic difference if you were to get that actual burger meat from a butcher, a local butchery or whatever. You can have burgers a lot more often. It's just not going to be processed meat, which is in turn going to get you more nutritional benefits. So it's like that's an example of having a real conversation versus social media engagement. You know, then like I said about the old lady, you're making her day better. You're making other people's days better by giving them that time. You're not going to make the people that are posting these videos, that one like or the one view isn't really going to like make their day if they're getting thousands of views an hour. Yeah. You know, so why be an insignificant like or comment if you can be a very significant impact on an actual person's day right there in front of you?
100%, man. That makes a lot of sense. I agree with that entirely, because it all comes down to how much meaning is actually there, you know? And being that one like on social media, it doesn't mean anything. It's just that little tiny speck of dopamine on top of the situation, right? But when you're actually out there talking with people and you're having that meaningful connection with them, you're getting so much more. Especially like with the old lady example, right? You're talking to this person, right? Say she's 80 years old. She has 80 years worth of life experience to share with you, and she's having a conversation with you right now, and she's picking out the most interesting things to talk to you about. So you're literally compressing 80 years of information down to the most interesting points about your questions. What better information are you going to get than somebody who's like, let's make a post real quick. Done. Yeah.
And then if you have questions about that post or that story that the lady gives you, guess what? You don't have to wait a week for them to reply on that post. You ask her the question and she then explains it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the context. It's more of a conversation with that lady. And the whole point of this whole spiel, this whole episode, is just make actual conversation with human beings. Talk to the people around you. Talk to your family. And like memes. What are friends for, right? Because you have those group chats where it's just memes. But, you know, actually talk to them. Try talking to them. Ask them what their goals are. You can work with them. You guys can hold each other accountable. Grow in your friendship. Grow as human beings together. Support each other. Learn to grow and have that mental exercise away from the unhealthy processed information. The same way you have to work out and exercise all of that McDonald's off. But lastly, please remember to follow and like the podcast TMF Instagram handle and follow our Facebook at the Motivating Force Podcast.
We do drop new episodes every Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. EST. Be sure to check that out. We have topics ranging across the board. So feel free, go to our channel, go through the videos there, and just see what grabs your interest. Click on it. We have great conversations all the time here.
Yeah. And like we're saying, you're already going to be on social media. And to us, that one like and comment and share of the page or whatever it is does mean a difference to us. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, it really, it fills us with joy that we're actually doing something that people are accepting or agreeing with or even disagreeing with. But if you comment, we can argue the points. We keep that conversation going with you guys. And also the YouTube is the only source of the video podcast that we have so far. But if you are an audio listener and you're a fan of that form, you can check out our Anchor link, Anchor FM, and you're going to find anywhere that you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. We're on all of that for audio listeners only. And like I said, videos only on YouTube. So go ahead and check those out. Remember, you can rate those via the app directly.
And until next time, go on and get